El teléfono. All right, so yep, we are live. Welcome to the Mastermind Podcast, episode 472. My name is Dr. Derek Israel, and today I will be talking with Crystal Madrid. She's almost a psychologist, almost a clinical psychologist doctor. She's also an artist, a mother, a wife, a very creative, inventive person, and she's also the love of my life. So thank you, Crystal, for being here. Any thoughts? Do you want to present yourself to the audience that will be seeing this after we record it?
Hi, everybody. I'm really glad to be here at 4 o'clock in the morning. You know that I'm a morning person, so this is fantastic. So, thank you for the invitation. I'm really glad. And as you said before, I'm a clinical psychology intern. In a few months, I will be a doctor. But also, I'm an independent artist, and I'm a very, I will say that I'm part of the universe and the universe is part of me, and I am represent many patterns of reality, as you said before, as mother, as a sister, as a daughter and a wife, as everything that you can imagine.
See, if you can speak a little bit closer to the phone or to the iPad, because I hear you very like uh in a distance.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Just a little closer or project better the voice. Anyways, let's go. So back I think it was last week I did this episode that it was called the four archetypes of the divine masculinity, and I
Mm-hmm.
there discussed the warrior, the king, the magician, and the lover. But then I realized that I have to do the same with the archetypes of the woman, of the
Mm-hmm.
divine femininity. So that's why I asked you to came here. I know that you have been studying archetypes for a couple of years now, and I know that you work with this type of, we can call them images or patterns or spiritual vortices. I know that you work with this a lot in your life. So I say, so why I don't bring a woman that is actually living these archetypes that actually can describe them, and that will be better for my audience to to understand this from a woman. So in your own words, for someone that haven't heard archetypes before, someone that is not familiar with this subject, how you can describe what is an archetype, and why, and maybe why do you think it's important to listen to this episode if you're a woman or even if you're a man?
Okay, so the first response will be an archetype. In an easy way to understand it is a representation. It's a representations that is going to survive. The meaning or the concept of the representation is going to survive over the time. So what I mean about that is timeless. Also is a, I will say, is the, it will represent, it will survive cultures, it will survive different eras. Also, it will be the sum of different concepts together. What I mean about that is that you're going to have a definition about that, I will have a definition about that, and all those definitions will be part of the representation. Another thing that is very important, and to put it in a simple way, is a pattern. Is a pattern that represents what I said before, a concept that is timeless. That there is a way that for everybody have something in common. But we have to understand something about the archetype. You're going to give it a meaning. I will have my own meaning about that. It's going to be related. But because the archetype is something so abroad, human will never have the core of the meaning of that. What human can do is give a representation, gave a concept to this, and for every person is going to be different. And if that archetype represents something for me and have this meaning for me, that will be perfectly okay. That will be enough. And that doesn't mean that because this have a meaning for you is wrong what I just the meaning I just gave about that. For example, I always explain when I touch this knowledge with patients. Um, I just explain it that, and then I just use an example. For example, the Cinderella story is a really classic. Is a really classic one, but you can identify patterns that survive every era and survive all the history. This is like a story back of the days of time ago, but you will always understand what is a Cinderella. It's like the underdog and survive timeless. Like you will say, for example, there was a boxer that they called them the Cinderella man. Is the representation. Everybody understand the meaning of someone who was in a in a position that we was not so empowered, but they work a lot until they become the prince, or they have a better position, they have a better standing, they have a better opportunity in life. We can go more deeper about that one, but that is something an example. Also, you will understand what is an archetype. What do you mean about that? Okay, you know what is a witch, right? Everybody tell me, yes, I know what is a witch, but you will see that there is different type of wishes in different type of books, right? So everybody gave a meaning, but we know that is a person that when we talk about witch, usually is a woman that is possessed by the evil energy and want to do something maleficent to someone that was really, 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 really like naive or was really, really, really innocent, right? So are some type of that. Now I just gave a meaning about that, but if I ask you, you probably will give another meaning to what is a witch. But that doesn't mean that my meaning is not enough, and that doesn't mean that your meaning is wrong. That means that everybody understand the concept. It doesn't matter if we gave a different meaning, but there is something in that representation. There is a pattern that will connect in everybody. That is the reason it's timeless. For example, in another example, and with this one I close, the snake. The snake have a representation. We talk about that all the time, and the snake also have an archetype. The archetype of the healing, an archetype of the poison. And every culture, it doesn't matter what time of the era we're talking, everybody it will see a snake and it's going to be fear, it's going to respond. It doesn't matter if you know that there is another representation of feeling also, but if you see that, you can be scared. It doesn't matter if you are from Australia, it doesn't matter if you are for China, it doesn't matter if you are for Puerto Rico. If you see that, everybody will have the same pattern or reaction about that because everybody have the same meaning about that. But also you can hear stories that people said that they use the poison there's the for healing for other stuff. So you want to add
Yeah,
something?
yeah, wonderful. I really like that you brought up the fact that we all gonna mediate the archetype according to our own personality and according to our own concepts and schemes in our life.
Mhm.
And I think that that was something that I have never discussed before. Yes, I used to discuss that every archetype have like sub archetypes. For example, in
Mhm.
the Buffon, we have the fool, we have the clown, we have the comedian, we have the trickster, and those are like different types of the same archetype.
Mhm.
But also, that type will manifest entirely particular in each one of us, because
Mhm.
each one of us will accommodate that universal truth into our own subjective truth.
Yes.
So what
Mhm.
every person that will listen to this podcast and to these archetypes will manifest themselves differently, and that's why they are timeless. That's why we can see the hero in Avengers, and we can see the
Mhm.
hero again in Harry Potter, and we can see the hero again as an archetype in Star Wars, and every time we're gonna fall in love because it's the same energy but manifested in a different kind of individual, in a different kind of personality. So that's why I think that it's very important what you just said, and I love the examples of the Cinderella, the snake. And another point that I want to mention is that sometimes archetypes can become neurological, neurologically fuse with our own biological systems. As in the case of the snake,
Mhm.
we have this mental representation of
Mhm.
the snake as an archetype, as a healer, as you said, as the death and rebirth of
Mhm.
someone, that process, but also is genetically uh, convenient for us to have fear of the snake because we have been dying by snake bites for a long time now. So archetypes can also become uh, part of our biological constitutions if they penetrate a lot our life, our organic life, as in the case of the snake. So why do you think it's important for women to listen to this podcast, to listen to these images, to these archetypes, to these patterns of energy, to these ways of being? Why do you think it's important for women to cultivate this in their life?
Yes, we have to understand that the archetypes are like a blueprint, right? Is this like this pattern? So it's very important. For example, I was go again to when I go to therapy with the members with the client. Um, it helps us to identify what is manifesting, what I am manifesting at this moment, because sometimes we cannot see directly what is happening here. What I mean about that, sometimes we don't have the insight what is happening over here. But in women's and in all cultures, listening, the stories, the storytelling help us. And sometimes we don't identify the situation in us, but we can identify the situation, what is happening in in a story. For example, if you the Bible of this for woman is the woman who run with wolf. She used
That is a
stories.
book. That is a book, right?
Correct, is a book. She used stories to exemplify some situations, social situations, some psychological situations, so you can understand how sometimes we repeat patterns when we are in that situations. But she used a different way. She don't go directly there because sometimes the person have mechanisms, defense mechanisms that avoid or don't want to accept what is happening there, what is manifesting there. But sometimes when we go through these patterns, through this blueprint, to see this object, when we take out this situation and we put it in in an object over there, and you can see it over there, and you hear the story, then you can identify with that, and then you can find a solution about that. You can find a
In your own
solution.
life,
Yes,
in your own,
yes.
in your own life,
If you
right?
hear the story, and I just used this before, when you hear the story, I don't know why, but the Cinderella story is one that you can use a lot in session in therapy. Um, and when we discuss the story, they can see the pattern, they can see the problem, they can see the situation, they can see the issues going there, and they can get insight over there. Then they can implement it. Then they can see the similarity. Then they can see they can go over there. And it's very important because sometimes we get so um attached to the Jan energy, or sometimes we're so um masculine sometimes that we disconnect from some archetype that are manifested in us in the feminine side. So when you sit here and you said, I don't know what is happening to me, but when I go to the story, when I go through the myth, and I say, oh, but this resembled to Cinderella, this resembled to let me see another one.
The Beauty and the Beast,
The
or
Beauty and the
maybe
Beast, yes.
that
Or
is this
you,
is
this is Gaia. This is manifesting is Gaia. This is manifesting is Selena, who is the god of the
Kali
moon. This is
or Kali,
Gali.
right?
Yes. There is a lot one. There
Yeah.
is a lot. This is the one this is psycho, psychic. This is the other one. There is a lot going on. But when you see the story, you say, okay, I understand what is happening over here and what can happen. What is the problem in that myth, in that story,
Hmm.
and how you can resolve that story. What were the thing that she can do better? And also, there is something very important we have to identify. Men can be identified with this type of archetypes also. I
Right.
don't know if you have explained this before, but men can also be identified about that. And another thing that is very important, and that is the reason we gave the example of the snake earlier, is that the archetype are not just like characters that are humans. Archetype also can be geometric objects like the circle, spiral, the infinite um,
Symbol, yeah.
symbol. Yes, also can be animals. Like the
Hmm.
snake can be an archetype, the representation of the snake, the eagle, stuff like that.
Yeah, because the archetype is the energy, and how that energy materialize in reality will depend in so many different circumstances. So you basically, to see if I understood what you try to say, is that we can, woman or a man, need to listen to this podcast, because by understanding some of the stories and some of the representation of the archetypes, they can understand better their life and their hero's journey, and they can understand
Correct.
better their circumstances, and to proceed better in navigating those by integrating psychological and spiritual elements, that by working through that archetypes in the specific challenges and virtues that each archetype bring, they can solve their life, right? Something like that.
Correct. For
Good.
example, I will be quickly with this one.
All
I
right.
mean, I will give an example very quickly. I'm in my internship, and my supervisor, um, she just moved to another position, right? So now I have a new supervisor. When we discuss this together, at first everybody react like, oh, a little bit sad, the detachment, that now everybody have to be involved, the laws, stuff like that. Okay, but
So
when we talked
wait.
about,
So you guys were sad because of the transition of your supervisor.
yes, because she was gone, she now
Okay.
is going to go.
Right. Okay.
It's not the transition, it's because the fact now this person, this object, the representation is going to go.
Right. Uh-huh.
Okay, um so when we discussed this together, what you tell me was, oh, that is very normal, because in the hero's journey or heroine journey, that it can be different, the pathway in both
Mm-hmm.
sides.
Right.
In the hero's journey, always the mentor has to go away so the hero can growth. For
Mm-hmm.
example, this happened in the Hobbit. You will see when in the Hobbit The Hobbit is really, 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 really like innocent animal, right? But Gandalf come here and see something in him and bring him here, like the internship, right? Oh, I said something. You have this position. You want it? Oh yes, let's go for them the adventure. Okay, so we get into the adventure, but you will see in the movies. Let's go to the movies. That is more simple. Is more easy to understand. So in the you will see that Gandalf every time go away. Just come here and talk with the hero that he don't know is a hero yet. That is the Hobbit. Go gave a lecture like a lesson. Go away, and then every time Gandalf go away. But it's because of reason, because that is the only way that the heroes can become like can be like in the loop, can get the transcendence every time. Boom, boom, moving forward. So that was an
Yeah.
example. And that example, when you tell me that, like Crystal, is part of the hero's journey, now is your chance. So in the loop, you can get bigger and you can transcend this point and you can move forward and see the new challenge or new dragons, now new battles that you can fight for. So, and then when you tell me that, I understand. I say, oh yes, it's true. It's part. I just gave a new meaning to that situation. That was an
Yeah,
example.
like yeah, and also like for example, when Obi-Wan Kenobi left his how he's called Luca
Looks
Luke Luke.
Skywalker.
So he did the same. Dumbledore with Harry Potter. He's part of the
Mm-hmm.
hero's journey archetype.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, and a real quick question: how is the psychological life of a woman or a man that actually heal these archetypes in themselves? how how will be that life, like what is the end result? Because you already mentioned that we can use this as a tool for assessment in our own life and to help us to navigate life, but what is the end result? What is the end result of integrating and maximizing these archetypical energies in our life?
I will say that is a really philosophical question. I will say that we have to ask ourselves first, what is the end? Because if we understand reality as a wholeness, there is never an ending story. If we take out now the archetype of the spiral, we will think that this is a ongoing process all the time, and every time you go, the story is going to be repeated. But
Mm-hmm.
every time that you transcend one little step, you're going to face a new little part of the blueprint that is part of the archetype. You may
Right.
never know about that. Like motherhood. Let's talk about the archetype of Gaia. That is the archetype of creation, right? So we can talk about Gaia. You create this new, you have the first stage, okay, in the womb. There is creation over there that is going through a lot. But is you transcending that part and you go to another one that you never know about that is something completely new for you. It's a spiral, but it's the same archetype going on of there. I always see that like there is a lot of bottoms over there on and off. I would say that they're always there, and sometimes they're more active than the others. For example, the Gaia, the creation over me, that was very active over there. But maybe sometimes they can be a little lower now
Right.
because there is another archetype that is more present. I'll see it like that. It's like, how do you call the machine that you have that is for music that is like that you adjust like volumes or effects?
Yeah, the mixer.
Yes, it's like a mixer. I just see, because I am very visual, I understand archetypes like a mixer. There is a lot of them over there, a lot of those buttons, but sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's like a spectrum. One of them are more high, other are more down, are like that.
Yeah,
But
it's
I
like
don't.
it's a dynamic. It's a dynamic.
Yes, I don't think
So it's
it can. I don't think, and you can go. further about that, and maybe that is for other topic, or you have covered this before. But I don't think that there is an ending story about that. I think every story have a knowledge, and it's always going on bigger and bigger, and there is something new to discover about this blueprint that you have never known.
But every time that you discover something, you become more whole, right? More integrated, more psychologically um, sophisticated, I will say. At least that is my experience. Every time that I work with an archetype, something changed deeply in my character. It is not. It doesn't pass through me as just a tool for knowledge. It is for me a tool for advancement and psychological progress. I don't know. Maybe if for what do you think about that?
Yes, I think that I share the same thoughts about that. The only thing is that um, it's a tool, and you can acquire a lot of knowledge, and you can transcend them a lot. But that is if you have the tool or and the guidance and the awareness.
Yeah,
Because if you're not aware of that, you're going to be stuck in the same.
in the
For
same
example,
narrative,
yes, the same narrative, correct. Or how I love to say it, the same melodrama. And
melodrama.
you can see that when you are in the Femme Fatale. You can see that also in the Black Widow, that she's over there like searching for love, but it's a love that it can be destructive toward others, and that will ask you like, what is really love about? That is the love that you want. So you're there. Sometimes these people need another type of love, another type of meaning between the relationship and interaction with others. Nevertheless, they're stuck in the same drama and the same narrative over there. But if they are not aware about the myth, about the archetype, about this representation, they can get stuck, and there is no like transcendence.
All right, so
Hmm.
let's jump right into the four archetypes. Which one you gonna discuss first?
Okay, so let's go very quickly to four archetypes that are very important for us. The first one, I will say, the fourth archetypes. The first one, I will say, the child. The second one, I will say, the woman who run with the wolf. That is the wild woman. The third archetype, I would say, will be let's talk about the Black Widow or the Femme Fatale. It can be related. And the last one will say the wise woman, or yes, the wise woman. Okay,
So which one do you want to start and why? Why do you want to start with?
let's start. I just picked this one because it's like go through different stages of development, of human development. So we are going to start with the inner child,
All right.
with the child. So the child is very important because the child is something that when you are growing up and you are in this developmental life, there is something um, that we disconnect, and that is going to be really accurate to your podcast, is the purpose of life. And sometimes we're suffering when we are adult because we're in a office room and we are just moving our finger without purpose. But that's happened, and sometimes we don't feel good and we just go in this status quo, just we are like robots just acting out, and but our life doesn't have purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Nevertheless, when someone asks you what was the dream that you have when you were a child, you say, I want to be a musician. I want to dream to be a writer. I want to be in, I don't know, in whatever you can imagine. But when you disconnect from the child, you lost the innocence. You and the judgment overcome all your thoughts, and you start performing as society wants you to perform. Nevertheless, when you become, when the archetype of Gaia is manifested and you are a mother, you will see the development of the child. You will see a lot of knowledge. You will see how the child do whatever they want without non-judgment. They will draw the line however they want. They will pick the color however they want. They don't want going to follow the rules. They have this innocence that is not killed by judgment, that let them be and pursue their dreams, their desires, and just has fun. They can go to the floor and just has fun sometime because there's we are getting mature. So sometimes that kill us or kill our essence, the core, the fire that make us our identity. And that is the reason that sometimes we're not happy about that. Or sometimes you remember when we were in Clubhouse talking about the inner child or the archetype of the child was something very important. And it
Yeah.
was it's very important because it's not the same in this society. Be raised as a girl or be raised as boys. Sometimes the boys can just play in the ground and get dirty, and girls cannot. That is before of the schemes that society put you over there. But before that, you were a crazy, crazy thing that even when you see a butterfly, you get excited.
So you are saying that the first archetype is the child, and that woman needs to, and also men, reconnect with that innocence, with that playfulness,
Hmm.
with that creative part of their psyche in
Hmm.
order to integrate this archetype. And can you give us, and I will ask you this question for each one of these archetype, at least one hack or one tip to stimulate, promote, activate, integrate this child archetype in our life? What we can do today to start connecting with this energy?
Yes, I will say I always gave this advice. If you have a desk because you're working from home or you do some stuff about university work, okay, use that desk for being an adult. But if you have another desk, use that deck for the creative, for play. There always a recommendation for artists. Use a desk or a specific area for play. Put their Legos, put their dog, put their clay, put their watercolors. I don't know, whatever that stimulates you. When you were a child, you love it. Put that there because that is going to connect you with the core of yourself, and also is going to increase your creativity. I would say if you want to go further, don't use the desk. Go to the floor and just move with the flow. Just I know it's scary just to start, and when you see something in blank, it's really scary. Um, but just dropping out water over there is the beginning, and for a child, that is amazing.
So the tip is to play, that we need to
Hmm.
designate an area in which we permit, sorry, in which we can permit ourselves to play and to be
Hmm.
wild for a little while, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. So what is the second archetype that you think is very important for women to develop in her divine femininity?
The wild woman. The wild woman is very important because connect us with our sexuality without the things. It just disconnect us with these values and moral standards. The wild woman can run and be free. Usually, the wild woman is connected with nature. You will see always there is a lot of myth related about that. One example would be the Scarlet Letter. Every time that the main character go to the woods, something is not wild, something out of the norms happen. And sometimes we pass our life just following rules, and that is okay. And that is okay. But sometimes we disconnect from ourselves. Sometimes we disconnect from that archetype that gave also meaning to our life. So the wild woman always is going to connect us with the self, based in the Jungian definition.
So basically, what you're trying to say is that the wild self is like our original self, like the part of us that is uncorrupted by morals, by the values, the social uh, conditionment, the culture, and is our most primal stage of being. That is what I understood.
Yes, that is the reason why in the book, the women who run with the wolf, they're going to associate that woman with the wolf. So you have to go to the forest, the archetype myth. You go to the forest or to the wildness and behave like an animal because you're going to be savage. You can be savage. You can hunt, and you can recover the part of yourself that you left behind because you're performing based in social paradigms. You're performing, and that disconnect from the self.
Right.
So when you go to the wildness, you became, as you said, more primitive. You can connect with the instincts, with the intuition, with the primal chord of the self.
And for those who don't know, the self in June with capital S is basically the wholeness that you can be, the wholeness of your total personality when it is fused with the entire universe as the universe.
Mhm.
So okay, I am basically losing my charge here in my headphones. Anyways, so what is a practical tip or a little advice that you can give for those who wants to activate the wild woman inside them?
Yes. Travel by yourself.
Hmm,
That is
that's a good
one that
one.
is amazing. You will find yourself. And hiking, go and hike. You will feel another connection. You will feel the connection. You will reconnect with nature and with that intuition and primal part of yourself. And I want to quote
Yeah,
something. I want to quote something very quickly because we're talking
sure.
about the self. Jason Silva just the other day posted something about the self, and it was like from June, Carl June, and it was like one day we found ourselves and said, "I" for the first time. That is the reason that the archetype of the wild woman is important because when you go to the forest, like the wishes, one of the myth of the wishes is they go to the forest and they do the magic over there, right? Because there is when you find yourself for the first time with the powers that you can have over there, the connection with the moon, the connection with Gaia, with the nature, the connection with the magic, the intuition, all your superpowers that society take you out because the archetype of the spirit, the young energy, and the male have conquered everything.
Right. And it is manifested basically in the social conditioning
Mm-hmm,
of that you
mm-hmm,
need to be successful, that you need to have a work, that you need to buy, material things, and
mm-hmm,
that has been disconnecting woman from the wild nature kind of
mm-hmm.
side, that it doesn't care about capitalism or material success, and it only wants to give milk and to nurture and to
Dance
reproduce,
wildly,
dance,
create
sing,
rights.
being
Mm-hmm.
sexual without restraint, without shame, right?
Do magic based in the songs, stuff like that. Yes.
So I really like the tip that you gave about traveling alone, and I will add that please don't travel to Disneyland alone, or don't
Yeah.
travel to a very safe place. If you really want to activate the wild woman, you should be traveling to a place that will demand that you become wild. And I know that it's difficult for women, especially
Mm-hmm.
in a world that you can be so easily victimized by other persons, but that is also part of the risk. Without risk, you cannot become wild. So
Mm-hmm.
people want to become wild, but they are not willing to risk or to put themselves in those circumstances that will demand to become wild, right? So I think that that is something that people should consider. So if you want to become wild, don't go to Disney, go to Africa, go to Egypt, go to China, go to a place, to go to Peru, go to a place that you will be forced to be unsafe. And if it is needed, you need to become wild to survive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that is the tip that you wanted to give,
No,
but I
yes,
am
yes. We're
adding a
talking
little bit
about
of
archetypes, so you're using symbolic language, like
right.
metaphors. Yes, that's mean that you go to places that you can challenge yourself, and you have to
Uh-huh.
hunt by yourself. That you have to be aware of your surroundings. That for the first time you can listen to your surroundings, so also you can listen your inner voice. So yes, I understand we're talking about archetypes.
And also, that space, wild space, can be an internal one. Like you don't need to
Correct.
travel in a plane
Mm-hmm.
physically. You can go in a meditation or in a certain type of yoga or breathing exercise, and you can go to a very wild place inside your mind in which you will fuse with that
Mm-hmm.
uh, archetypal energy. So
Correct.
going to the wild, just for me, it represents going into the unknown,
Mm-hmm.
into where the risk of being disintegrated is omnipresent. And that can be
Correct.
psychological, or that can be physical, sociological, political, artistical, in every dimension. So, all right, what is the third as archetype that you consider it is important for women to develop, to become better?
I will say the femme fatale, or yes, the femme fatale. That is the very sexual or erotic woman. That is really important because in these days we are so disconnected, and we are so goal oriented to the outside energy. That's mean the Jan energy, the masculine side of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
that we disconnect from the sensuality that can poison or can transform um, our surroundings. And sometimes we can be ashamed about the beauty of that, about the beauty of being a woman, of loving ourselves, our good part of ourselves, and the not so good part of ourselves, or using ourselves as a beauty instrument. Why not?
Sure. How
Why
how
we can?
woman? Oh,
Mhm.
sorry.
Yes, go
Can you
ahead.
finish your thought?
No, go ahead.
How woman, because it is a comment that you said that like caught my attention. How woman or men can transform the world through their sexuality, through their sensuality, through their beauty. Like how can we do it?
I'm pretty sure you have discussed this in a lot of podcasts, Derek.
Yeah, but
Go
it
to
doesn't
your
matter. I
TikTok.
want your opinion.
Go to your TikTok. There it is. Okay, no, no. But my point of view, okay, yes, my perspective about that. How can you transform that? Okay, there is a book that it says the word in Spanish was El Mundo de las Mujeres, something like that. And that book was really good. And the book started when a woman was given a speech, a political speech. And when she was given that political speech, it was really powerful. But was really powerful because she incarnate her sexuality. She incarnate all her emotions in it. She was aware of her beauty and the impact how the beauty was having over there in the speech and in her surroundings. It was not she wanna hide that her beauty, and I say beauty, and that is another archetype, the representation of that delightful inside or our side, or in everything, intellectual qualities or in physical qualities. You can go, beauty is something like love. Our God is something like so abrupt to describe that can be just a way of discussion. So, but in that moment, she was using all of the parts of herself to stand in a position where she was the leader and she was delivering information. And she was in that clan, she was a powerful resource. But it was powerful because she incorporated not just the intellectual part of herself. It was powerful because she was aware that her sensuality also was a powerful instrument full of energy that moved her towards goals.
Sexual transmutation, basically.
Correct. It's like alchemy, but
Alchemist, yeah.
incorporating that part. That is the reason
hmm
that you will see always that the femme fatale will walk very sexy, boom, 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 and everybody going to move and look at her. Is because she's aware that just by her steps, she's making a movement, a butterfly effect.
But why she wants to seduce? Like she wants to seduce for her to be desired by other people, or what is the purpose of seduction? Like, because I think that women have like I think that women are pretty good in seduction, but they don't know why are they doing it, and what are your thoughts about it? Why you want to seduce in the first place?
Okay, first of all, if a very primal response of human is we're still animals, right? So you will see in every animal that seduction is part of movement of a right to conquer a behavior or conquer a something to obtain something in exchange. So seduction, I think that is everybody have seduction, not just women and not just the women.
Right.
Everybody has seduction.
I
It's
I seduced you. I seduced you.
correct, correct. You move your neck like a peacock. I was fall in love. So it's just another way of communication. It can be very primal. Um, I will say it's not like it can be primal. You can seduce just moving your hand has you doing just that. That can be
Right.
seduction. But I will say that the energy that moves the seduction, it can be located in a primal way, like in the sacral chakra, stuff like that. So I would say that, but I just forget your question was, what was your question?
Why we seduce? What is the point to doing it? So you said that we have this archetype of the how do you call it? The seduction archetype. How do you call it?
The femme fatale.
The
Oh,
femme fatale.
I was going to say
Uh-huh.
something about that. Okay, so I'm just talking about femme fatale, but sometimes the femme fatale can be located in the dark side of the shadow, or sometimes it can be very unbalanced.
Right, like all archetypes, basically.
Exactly, yes, like Eros,
Mm-hmm.
for example. But it's something that every archetype, remember that it's a spectrum, and you can move
Right.
that archetype and transcend the archetype from one place to the other, like the movie from Jodorowsky,
Uh-huh. Which one?
the last one,
Uh
the one, a
oh yeah, I
very
forgot the
psychedelic
name.
one.
Forgot the name.
It was not the topo, it was not
The
el
mountain
topo.
something, the
It,
sacred mountain, I think was called. The sacred
that
mountain.
is there, that is there, it's over there. It was the archetype was, the archetype was represented over there, but they moved the archetype, the movie moved the archetype onto the transcendence. So they were in one, how do you say it in English, pole. There was
Mm-hmm.
in one side of the there was in one side of the archetype of the representation, and then they moved the energy to the other side. So it's like that every time in every representation.
Right.
So I think that we just use that as a way of communication, as a way to
Right.
obtain. It's also connected to evolution, so it's something that we want to use that as a way to be very dominant in the how do you say that, in the sexual
Market.
market. Also is like is there, but also it's a way that we can call attention, that we can be dominant in the client.
And also I think that it's a way to stimulate love.
Oh
Like if you
yes,
seduce the world,
yes.
the love can find love for you. Like if you are able to seduce everything that you, and it is seduction, it is more than sexual. It is
Mm-hmm.
because we think in seduction, and right away we think in sex, but that is sex is only uh, uh, a consequence of a very material kind of seduction. But seduction can be more sublime and more um, soft than just sex, right? So basically, by seducing the world, we can give beauty, love, passion to the world. Basically, that's
Yes,
how I see it.
it's like a movement to that we just do to invocate or to alterate the patterns that are manifesting this object reality, this material world. Yes. So
All right. So give us one practical tip, one advice if you want to become more like that, more seductive and more sensual, more that type of archetype in woman.
okay, so you can empower about that archetype. It will be really good to do movement. For example, you can start with something very um, more simple, like dynamic meditation. It's not just that simple, but it's more simple because it's you can move your body as you want or as you feel it. But also
Right.
you can dance. You can dance as you want, or even you can go more expert or belly dance or pole dance. Ooh. It's not just for the seduction of others, it's just for the incorporation and the healing of all the trauma, ancestor trauma that you have because you have repressed that energy. And also can empower yourself about the
Right.
magic, about the power that you have through the movement, through the seduction to change the pattern of reality.
Right. So women that are struggling with this archetype, they may have or experiment a lot of sexual problems, like, for example, repression or
Mm-hmm.
difficulty to achieving orgasm
Mm-hmm.
or stuff like that, right? So maybe by connecting with their bodies, connecting with their
Mm-hmm.
sexuality through dance, through wildness, through coming back to their core principles of what is to be in a woman, they can also heal the sexual part of their life.
I would say not to the part of being a woman, just to the part of the gene energy and the feminine side of the energy. So
All right, fair enough. All right. So let's go to the final archetype to
the
wrap
final
this up.
archetype. Okay, so the last one that we can discuss today is the wise woman. And with that archetype, we can go to the last one of the latest stages of development. But it's you don't have to be a wise, you don't have to be a like an old lady to incorporate that archetype because we have discussed that before, right?
Right.
So this is very important, and it's always very, very important when you go to the myth, when you go to the stories, when you go to the movies, you will see that there always going to be that representation because the wise woman sometimes it's always connected to the crazy old woman in the town, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But because that person has gone through all the stages, has gone to the hero's journey or the heroine journey all around the circle, they have seen everything and they have learned something, they have integrated something. And sometimes they are the person who said to the heroes, to you have to go to the wild, is the person who tells you crazy stuff, but just in the end you figured it out that was not crazy. It was crazy for society or for moral standards, but for the old lady that was there, it just like just go ahead, follow your intuition. The old lady represents the person who just transcended the hero journey, the journey, because she went back and picked up the part that she left behind. One is the wise woman, obviously. One is integrated. And when the wise woman getting in your life, it gave you hope and meaning and challenge you that just to follow, just to conquer the wholeness that, wow, what is wholeness? God, love, consciousness, we can go ahead through that. But just to get to connect with the self, capital S, the I, you have to go and pick up the stuff. But the wise woman, when that archetype is manifested, is the ones that is going to talk to your ears so you can move forward. For example, if you have seen the movie of Moana, is the grandmother just she said to Moana, I'm the crazy old lady in the town, right? Because she asked why you're dancing in front of the wave, and she said because she enjoyed, she's empowered about that. She said because I'm the crazy old lady in the town and I can do that. Because and also she's the one who says to the heroine, I think that you have to go to pursue what you want. He said, what I want, you know what you want? Go to the water to see what is beyond the water. You want to see what is far away from here. You want to have the adventure. And the adventure is very important because it's the only way that when you go through that adventure, you're going to face the dragons you have. And that is the only way that you can pick up all the part of yourself that you left behind. The thing that you repressed, the thing that you have not resolved, the thing there is still pain over there, but it's just a person with experience and with the wisdom who tells you you have to go through there, so you can heal yourself and you can integrate yourself. And when you're integrated, you get disintegrated. And that is the way that you get the whole.
Right, like yeah, love this. So when you was talking about some examples, I also remember the woman that it was in the temple of Doctor Strange, that she like
Uh-huh.
gave that punch in his chest and he was out of his body. For me, she's like a very old wise archetype
Yes.
kind of woman because although she's not that wise, that old, she already understood the practical implications of white versus black magic and how to use one versus the other. And for me, that represent the full archetype of the wise. Like the wise, it is not ignorant into the darkness of the world, but he can use the darkness of the world as a medium to bring light into the world. And I think that that's very important. Also, I was thinking about some examples of the child, and how do you call this little girl that she goes to the underworld with all the animals and the fantasy that you always relate to that story because the author you said to me that he was like a kind of a he was interested in little girls.
He was a pedophile. Yes. Alice in
Well,
Wonderland.
pedophile. I don't know if it was a pedophile, but
That is just
that have another
speculations.
implications.
That are just a speculation because he just enjoyed to have private time with little girls, and
Oh,
they
okay.
found photos of little girls, I think naked also. So
Oh, so
that's
yeah,
what's.
probably he was a pedophile. But what is the story? How what is the name?
um, Alice in Wonderland.
Oh yeah, Alice in Wonderland. So she's like an example of the child, I
Hmm.
think. Another what can be an example of the sexual one? Maybe Cleopatra of Egypt. She's like she used to.
Black Widow from the Avengers.
Oh, okay, but she's not sexual, or she is. I don't know. I don't see her movies.
Black Widow, they're Avengers, the red girl who fight, but it's really
Yeah, yeah,
sexy.
but I don't see her sexy.
I see her sexy every time she moves. She's very empowered about her hips,
Oh,
but she's
okay.
fine. For me, she's a
What
good.
about what
But
about
there is a lot
Lita,
of one. Let me
the
see. Femme
wrestler?
Fatale.
The
Mm.
Lita, the wrestler. You
Ooh,
know Lita?
no, Marilyn Monroe.
Okay. Yeah, that is one that
That is a
definitely
perfect one.
will
No one
people
will
will
debate that
understand that
one.
one.
Marilyn
Yeah.
Monroe.
So okay, and the wild woman who can be of the from the movies, one of or a character or from the stories that can represent that.
Pocahontas.
Who is that?
The Indian. There is a Native American. Sorry, I just said Indian. That is a mistake. It's because I'm thinking in Spanish. The Native American character. There is a very there is a part of the movie that animated movie that she run away with the wine. I think that is the name of the song. It is a really good example. It's just like a cliche example, but Pocahontas is represent like the innocent and how she run through the through the wine and find her own colors so she can engage in battles. There can be a lot of debate about some political situation over there, but just that scene that she just go and run wildly through the woods is really perfect example. And the song, the meaning of the song also.
Right. So maybe our fans or students can help us and leave comments below
Yes.
about which archetypes they can find in stories or which characters can illustrate the points that we discussed here today. Any final thoughts that you want to share with us before wrapping this off, Crystal?
How to implement or incorporate the wise woman. We just forgot about that.
All right.
I would say talk to your grandmother and find the story about your ancestors. The story and the history about your ancestors. And it's okay. And it's okay if you don't have a good relationship or it's not there, your grandmother. Find an old lady. There is always an old lady in town who just sitting there or just cross through your life, because sometimes the archetype just cross through your life because you don't see it inside, so you manifest it outside and talked. They always going to share something very meaningful.
So yeah, thank you for being our old wise today and for
Yes.
bringing this knowledge to our mastermind podcast and to people all around the world that will benefit from this information through the years to come. So where people can find your work and how what they can expect from your work if they decide to follow you.
Yes, so you can find me. My main goal is that you can go and visit me to my website, Crystal Madrid. You can, my name is right with K-R-Y. Okay, so you can find me at crystalmadrid.com. Over there, I will start publishing every month blogs, and also you can see my all my platform over there. But you can find me at my name, Crystal Madrid, in every platform, primarily on Instagram or TikTok.
Good. So I will be leaving down below in the description
Mhm.
the link for your website. Remember that you can share this podcast with a friend if you think that it was worth it. And um, and we see you in the next Mastermind podcast. Thank you, Crystal Madrid, for being here. And I will be bringing you back pretty soon to another episode that is relative specifically for women, motherhood, art, and all the things that you really love and that you are an expert in those subjects. And I can benefit from that.
Thank you very much, Derek. I wish that you can enjoy that Puerto Rican sun that look beautiful in you.
It is. I will be enjoying. See you later. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.